Hello, everybody. Happy Monday, and welcome to another LinkedIn Live interview. Just a quick reminder to everybody, we are streaming this to LinkedIn and YouTube. So if you want to see some of our past interviews, you can go there. It's much easier than scrolling through my newsfeed. And yeah, hopefully today the technology will be more on our side than it was last week. And then we will be able to do this interview in full as it's planned. So without me going into too much random rambling, I am quite chatty, Katherine, but
That's
I would
okay.
love to welcome you to the show.
Thank
It's a
you.
pleasure to have you here. And, to kick it off, I would love to invite you to tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. And first of all, thank you so very much for having me. I've been very excited about this interview. This has been one that I've been looking forward to for a couple of weeks now. So I'm Katherine McCord. I run a specialized recruiting and staffing firm. We are national and we specialize in startup companies, although we do have larger clients as well. And I also run a show called Career Launch Live, where we talk about anything from payday law to marketing and sales, and also give job seeker tips as well. And now I am launching an applicant tracking system that is going to help us fire the resume. So that's a
Well,
little bit about me.
Well, nice. Yeah, I like them short and sweet. I wish I would be able to do things short and sweet. I just go into this random ramblings, but I like, fire the resume.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let,
It's got to happen.
where
It's
do
been,
we start with that?
oh gosh. Okay. Well, the first thing that people ask me is why? Why is it important to get rid of the resume? And the resume was a great start. Okay, I'm not insulting resumes or saying that they're bad in general, but they're just not what we could be doing, right? Like we didn't stop making automobiles with the original ones that went, like 5 miles an hour, right? We just kept growing and developing. And that's where we are with the resume. So the problem with resumes are a lot over 90% of people do not know how to make them properly, which is a problem. And B, they create inherent bias, which and bring those out, which a lot of people struggle with. Anything from ageism to racism, right?
Yeah, may I add a C?
Yes,
Something that I've
please.
experienced. I was hiring quite a lot of people in the past 25 years. Whenever you get a CV or a resume, as you guys say in the US, you should just assume that it's at least blown up by 50% or more. So you never
Yes.
really know what you can trust. And then it becomes this basically worthless piece of paper, and
Right.
you have to go and do the digging anyway.
Right. And it's one or the other, right? It's either inflated or it's deflated. And people think if I put too much, that's going to seem too showy and too braggy and nobody's going to want to talk to me. So the resume is just not very effective. So the way to move past the resume is to move into some of these great new technologies that we have and great new devices, such as video submissions, such as I've seen candidate profile images that are created. LinkedIn is a good way because it's a little bit more robust. You get to see testimonials about the person or referrals or however they call it. And then another way is that we need to evolve the applicant tracking system, and we need to make it more than just about documents and help. And we need to actually help people match themselves to jobs, because it's just not practical to ask somebody to change their CV or resume for every single job to which they apply. That's ludicrous. Nobody has the time to do that. So it's important then to have a technology that when people are applying, it helps them actually align themselves with that position. And I believe that will also stop people from applying to jobs to which they have no actual qualifications, because I'm sure you know, Miha, people apply to jobs and that have no, I've had customer service people apply to CEO jobs.
I know. I mean, just recently, one of my clients, because they are growing now, they're in the growth phase. So they started the whole HR process. And one of the first things they told me was, Miha, do you know that people apply to our jobs that have nothing to do with what we are doing here? And I was like, yeah, get used to that. I mean,
Mhm.
Katherine, let me start with this. So the way I've always done HR and the way, I always share that with my clients. I mean, I'm not helping them with HR processes. I'm not an expert on that, but the way I always did it was I always viewed HR as a 4-pillar process. So
Mhm.
pillar number 1 is, just get the leads coming in. So
Right.
post things out there and start
Mhm.
getting applications.
Right.
Then pillar 2 is all about now, okay, you got hundreds of application. Now we have to go through some sort of filtering process that keeps your sanity going, because you can't realistically talk, 1 hour to 500 people, or you can just quit everything else.
Yeah.
And then when you do choose, so the filtering and choosing of the right candidate, then pillar number 3 is proper onboarding of that person.
Yes.
And then pillar number 4 is how do we now work on their career progress so that we keep the good people in
Yes.
our company in the long run. So those are kind of like the 4 pillars, how I see them,
I
but
agree
would love to hear.
100% with you. And those are all important in the hire process, right? Because if you don't let candidates know about pillars 3 and 4, then they won't be as excited to come work for you. And right now, the market is very competitive. And a lot of companies have this idea that the job market is entirely in their favor, and that's not accurate. Yes, there are a lot of job seekers on the market, but they also are more educated. They've been given a lot of information during COVID as to what they should be looking for, some things to avoid. And there is a much stronger sense of job seeker pride, where they have expectations and they want to know what's up and what you're going to do for them, and they want to make sure that it's a two-way street. So right now, one of the biggest pieces of advice that I am giving to companies that are interviewing is to make sure that you are treating that first interview like a date. Make sure that you're getting to know them and making sure that they're getting to know you, and make sure that it's a mutually beneficial situation. And make them feel welcome. People forget that. People forget to smile and make them feel welcome and encourage job
Yeah,
seekers.
I agree. I'm nodding a whole lot as you're saying, and then I was like, oh, but I'm this little window, and nobody can actually see me nodding to everything that you say. Yes, I agree. It's a dating process, because the whole, like, I'm more coming from leadership perspective, and that's kind of like more my thing, the leadership coaching and stuff like that. But things have changed. 30, 40 years ago, you were okay to just be that, proverbial boss, the manager, because there was no globalization, there was no internet, and people didn't have that many options. I mean, unless you
Right.
live in New York or, a big city, the options were quite scarce. They were just around you in your neighborhood, or you had to relocate and la di da di da. But now, in the last 5, 10 years, with all the technology, globalization, remote work, and all of that, people have way more options.
Yeah.
Employees have way more options. And
Mhm.
suddenly, that old managerial, bossy kind of way, you do what I say, don't do what I do, and stuff like that, that doesn't really work anymore.
Nope. No,
So,
not at all. I completely and totally agree with you. And it will shut people down. And the other thing that will happen is, even if you onboard the person, they will not stay with you if you pull that kind of nonsense.
yeah, they will quickly leave because, again,
Mhm.
they have options. And so, Katherine, how do we like, how do you restructure which parts of those 4 pillars are, like, your bread and butter, and then how are you restructuring it now, and even how your, the tools that you are soon launching will
Oh, yeah.
help in that process. So please do a little bit of a monologue on
Sure.
that. Walk
Sure.
us through.
So one of the things that's really important as you're gathering the people, right? That's pillar 1 that you mentioned. And I like the pillars, by the way. I think I'm going to steal that from you, just so that you know. But I like this pillars idea. And the first pillar is bringing the people to you. The first thing to remember, companies, is to not rely on just a job posting, okay? Get yourself a real headhunter, whether it's internal or external, to actually go find people, because the best candidates are often ones that are not overly active. And even the ones that have been laid off that are really good often are not very active on the job boards. They sit back and wait because they know that a good recruiter will come find them. So one thing that's important is to headhunt, get somebody that really knows how to dig and how to look and how to find that top talent. That's tip number one. Number two, make sure you have the right technology coming in, because a lot of applicant tracking systems, which is, for anybody who does not know, is basically the CRM that HR and recruiting people use to keep track of applicants and move them through the process and then paperwork, things like that. Make sure, that your ATS is not blocking candidates, because there are a lot of filters that can be linked to ATSs. So make sure it's letting everybody through, because an applicant tracking system will think that it's blocking somebody for one thing, but they're actually blocking them for something else, and it causes problems and it causes you to miss good candidates. So check your filters on your applicant tracking system. Make sure that your applicant tracking system is setting your HR and recruiters up for success. Make sure that they have their form emails and things like that that they can send out to let candidates know that they've been rejected, but offer them feedback if they would like it. Make sure that they have a system where they can automatically ask a candidate to schedule an interview and they're not having to do a whole bunch of wasted back and forth. Have calendar links for them, things like that. Set your people up for success. That is huge. That is absolutely huge and imperative. Then as they're going through the interview process, keep it human. Keep it interactive and keep it going. My contribution to this that he referenced is that I have developed a proprietary applicant tracking system that is patent pending and is formally launching on April 5th. Very excited about that. And what this applicant tracking system does is it actually gets rid of the resume and creates a masked candidate profile that removes any potential bias creating information. So instead of a name, you'll see a candidate headline similar to what you would see on LinkedIn. It gives you information about their past jobs. It tells you their average tenure, but not dates of employment, so you can still make sure that they're nice and reliable. And it helps them match themselves to the job. So that way you're not having to comb through. You can go right there and say, these are the skills that I said matter. How are they matched up to these? And bam, there's your answer right there for you, to keep it nice and simple. And then as the process moves along, you're able to ask them, would you like to move forward in the process? When they say yes, then their profile unlocks and you see their name and their phone number and all of that fun information. But it's a lot more candidate friendly, and it's a lot more HR and recruiter friendly, because it's designed to actually help people highlight themselves and give you a better explanation as to why them.
Okay. Now, my question going forward from this. So, is this system only for really employing people, or does it allow broader spectrum of coworkers? Like part-time and freelancers and outsourced and so on.
Oh yeah. It can anybody that you're bringing onto your team. It would be perfect for keeping in those types of people. So if it's contractors, it could potentially be used for part-time, for temp, that type of thing. Absolutely, 100%. Okay. So this technology is for any company that does any type of hiring or onboarding.
Okay, cool. So what would be maybe some of your tips? Okay, so I've gotten a lot of application now. Maybe this is a small company. They can't afford to pay somebody to do the hiring process for them. Right. They have to do it by themselves because they're bootstrapping through the whole thing. What are some of your best tips on how to filter through, how to find those personality matches, company culture matches, because they're much more difficult to describe. Yes. Skill set, that's easy. Like, 5 years of copywriting, 3 years of this, Microsoft Word and Excel, or Google Apps, or whatever. So those are more tangible. But the key is always in the more untangible stuff, in the soft skills and personality traits. So how do you support them in that regard? Oh, I think Katherine
Out.
is okay. Yeah, it froze a little bit. So yeah,
It did.
did you catch my whole question?
No.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I was asking. So the hard skills, they're
Mhm.
really easy because they're very tangible. So it's
Oh,
really
yes.
easy to filter through. But then we have soft skills and personality traits, which are
Mhm.
much more untangible. So what would be some of your best advices for a startup, a small startup that has to do a lot of this by themselves?
Oh, yeah.
They're limited with the resources, human resources, to
Mhm.
go through a whole lot of applications. So
100%.
yeah.
Yes. So number one that I will recommend for startups, which is my specialty, by the way, I love working with startups. So the first thing that you want to do is look for other people that have been in startups before, or smaller companies, not necessarily complete startup mode, like all the way down to, just a few, very, very few people, less than 5, but somebody who's been with a company with less than 100 people. And ideally somebody who's been in a company with less than 50 people, because that's somebody who's going to know how to wear multiple hats, which is often a requirement when you're working with a startup. And it also means that they're going to be used to that kind of just throwing just throwing everything into it and not being afraid. They're going to have a lot more tenacity often, not all the time, but this is something that often comes with that kind of personality.
Yeah,
The
they're
other
quite
thing,
the Swiss Army knives. Yes.
yes, exactly. You want the Swiss Army knife candidate, 100%. So then the other thing that you're going to want to do is look for resumes or cover letters or applications, LinkedIn profiles that show personality. Because when you're a startup, what you're looking for are the little bit more bold people often. And you still want to have diversity. So you want people that have different backgrounds, different ideas. You don't want the same person over and over and over again, even if that person is really amazing. That's not going to be helpful to you. Look for people that have a variety of backgrounds, a variety of types of experience, and don't. One of the biggest mistakes that companies make is that they get this idea in their head that you need X number of years of experience doing this exact job. One of my best hires was a receptionist when I got hold of her. She was 64 years old, and I trained her in less than a month to be a recruiter, and she ended up being a top producer. Why? Because she had other skills that were relevant, and she had the right personality, and she could read people. So I brought her in. So startups, do not be afraid to get somebody that has the right type of experience pieced together to really help you out.
Okay. No, yeah, that all makes perfect sense. And, now you got me thinking back. It was usually people who didn't really fit what my idea was of how that person
Mhm.
should look like. But, I ended up giving them a chance. And they often surprise me in a very, very positive way. And people who on a piece of paper were, everything was just correct and you would expect a lot of them, they were usually the biggest disappointments.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I really agree on that. So how do you test, or how do you figure out the untangible stuff, the
Mm.
personality traits, the soft skills? How do you figure that out when you're dealing with, I don't know, 200 applications?
When you're looking at the CVs and the resumes or LinkedIn profiles, however you're looking at it, the first thing, like I said, you're going to want to look for is something that shows their personality, somebody that is giving you tangible, somebody that shows some excitement. And think to yourself, okay, start scheduling those conversations. Start getting that going. Now, if you're not used to doing a lot of hiring, one of the great ways that you can kind of filter some of these people out before you take the time to actually talk to them is email them back and forth. Plus, that also tells you how they communicate non-verbally, so in writing. So that's wonderful. So go back and forth with them and ask open-ended questions and see how they respond to you. If they kind of catch you, go, great. Awesome. Another great way that a lot of companies miss is ask them to connect to you on LinkedIn at the bottom of the job description and see how many actually do it. Because if they do, they're showing initiative. They're showing that they're interested. They're reaching out to you. And then you can message them back and forth a little bit there and get to know them. But that's a really great way to kind of start that process. And then, of course, once you're into the interview, it's a very, very simple solution to find out about all of those wonderful soft skills. Listen, zip, don't talk so much. Zip.
Ask questions and just
ask questions. Yeah. Like, okay, do you see how Mia's interviewing me? This is how job interviews should go. Give a little information, have a little something to say, but then shut up and let the other person talk.
Well, Katherine, and I've said this before, that those 4 pillars that I talk about, it's same shit like marketing and sales.
Yes.
You first need to figure out your ideal client avatar and here your ideal role avatar. You throw out a bunch of stuff, and so that people start going into your CRM, and then you move them through the funnel. At some point, you have a sales call with them, and then you onboard them, you deliver the stuff, and then you do customer experience so that they come back, spend more, recommend you, and so on. So it's really same thing.
It is. And one of the other things that I always do when I'm looking for my clients is I tell them, I'm going to have a job description, but I want you to know that I'm not going to focus a whole lot on this picture that you've drawn for yourself. I'm going to find someone who can fill this hole in your company, because essentially what's going on is there's a problem that needs to be fixed. There's a hole in the company that needs to be filled. And it may not be that this person's had this title or this many years or this or that, but do they have the right skills, the right expertise, and do they have the right mentality to come in and to dive right on into the work? So I always tell people, don't think of it as crossing T's and dotting I's and a little checklist. That, like you said, that's not going to get you there, because the people that check all those boxes may get in there and stink out loud. Think of it as, we have this need, and just go into the interview and think, is this person, let's just see if this person's going to fill it or not. Just like dating, right? You don't know. On their profile, they may be great, but then you get there and they're completely psychotic, and they've, flashed their gun right off the bat, or, have, I don't know, whatever. I don't know what happens on dates anymore. It's been a lot of years for me, but maybe they start stalking you after the first date, so you don't want that. So go into every single interview with just the mindset of, is this person the right fit for my company?
Yeah, absolutely.
Very simple. Yeah.
Well, Katherine, I see that, we are getting close to the 30-ish minute mark. I mean, it's not a big thing. When you're the fail coach, you can say, well, fuck it, it's aligned with my brand. I failed a little bit. We just go a bit over. But, I don't want to go too much over, because I really want people to go back to this and watch it. And if they see an hour-long interview, it might prevent some people to watch it. So I want to still keep it close to roughly 30 minutes. But there's just so much I still want to ask you.
I'll be quick.
So we did the first part, the filtering, the moving them through the process. Now, okay, we decide on a particular person. Do you have any good advices, when it comes to proper onboarding, and then the whole career path, working with them once they are onboarded, once they're already part of our team?
Oh, yes. So first and foremost, when you're onboarding, and I did not know until about a week ago that I actually needed to say this, remember to give them a start date. That's important. Yeah. Remember to tell them in their offer as much as you possibly can about the position. So in their offer, you need to specify start date, schedule, benefits, pay schedule. All of these kinds of things need to be specified in the offer. When you're getting ready to onboard someone, be ready for them. do not have them show up day one and nothing is ready. Have their technology ready, have their logins ready, have a little training packet or a welcome packet or whatever ready for them. Have someone there to show them around, introduce them to people, and have training for them. It does not matter what an expert someone is in their field. They still need to be trained on your way of doing things. So have some kind of training or orientation set up for them as they're onboarded. Then have follow up, set specific goals those first couple of days for them, and then follow up with them and ask, hey, how are those goals coming? How can we help you achieve them? When you get to the point that they're due, give the first review and go, great, this is how you did accomplishing your first couple of goals that we set for you. And then make sure that you set up periodic touch points. I don't like to call them reviews. You don't need to have like an annual review. That's so lame. Just touch points with people where you're touching base and going, hey, how's it going? This is what I'm noticing. How are you? And that's a big one. Ask how the other side is going. What are you noticing? What can we do better? What can I do to support you? Because in management, that's your number one job, supporting your team. That's your job.
I
It's not
agree.
being bossy. It's support.
It's lately the whole leadership thing is all about being the servant leader. Now, some people mistake that thinking like, oh, now I have to babysit them. No, that's not servant leader.
That's not it.
Yeah, it's still carrot and the stick when it's needed. But yeah, you are the servant leader. So the pyramid has changed. You're not at the top of the pyramid. You're basically at the bottom, supporting, empowering, giving power, or well, I know that empowerment is not the right word, but motivating them and encouraging them
setting
to
them
step
up for success.
into. Katherine, I'm going to ask you like this. You can either answer or we can schedule another LinkedIn Live because I think this might be a lengthy topic. You know, we are in the whole Corona thing. Here in Europe, we still have new lockdowns happening all the time. Third wave, fourth wave, who knows how many waves already. And so a lot is happening remotely. And, you know, having a company with an office and everybody comes into an office, that's one way of dealing with things. When you have to do things remotely, and then, you know, if you are even open to having team members from different time zones, not just, you know, the 3-4 time zones in the US, but maybe you hire somebody from Europe, from Asia, from Australia, then things really get messy. So either do you think you can give us a few tips right now, or should we just schedule a whole nother LinkedIn Live?
We can do a whole nother one on that because you're right, that can get really lengthy. But just right off the top of my head, when you're working with remote team, and by the way, I do have one team member that changes countries on me periodically. I have team members across the US. Everybody has always been remote. This was not new for us. And number one is stay in touch with your people and don't just bug them about work stuff. Just send out messages going, hey, how you doing? What's going on? What's up? Also, this idea of work has to be done between 8 to 5. No. Is the work done? Now, obviously, there are certain things where, like, for instance, a nurse has to be at work from this time to this time. That's just how it is. There are certain things like call centers. You might have to have coverage from here to here. But most jobs, it doesn't really matter. I have a new client and they have people that come in at 6 a.m. and leave at 3, and people that come in at 10 and leave at 7.
Well, you know, I would say it depends a little bit how much teamwork is needed. So if a team really needs to work closely and communicate a lot while accomplishing a task, then of course they need to have a certain starting and ending point where they're all there.
Yeah, it just depends on the job. But communicating with your team, and then setting clear expectations when you have a remote team is a lot more important because they're not just there looking at you. You can't just walk down the hall and tell them something real quick. So set those clear project expectations up front and have scheduled meetings every single day where you sit down and you go over everything, but keep those meetings organized. Don't let them drone on and on and on like so many meetings do. Keep it organized, but touch points and scheduling. And then as you're hiring people, if they can be remote, why not hire somebody in a different country? who cares? As long as they can do the job right, why not?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Well, you know what, Catherine, I'll stop it here. I will definitely, no, you and I, we will schedule another one, because I really want to go in so many deeper layers of everything that you've covered so far. And yeah, I would love to have you one more time as a guest
Oh,
here, so that we can
absolutely.
dive a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
But yeah, for now, I'll ask you two things. Number one, who should connect with you? How is the best way to connect with you?
So anybody should connect with me. I'm always here for job seekers, companies, anybody. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Katherine McCord. You have my name down here in the corner. I'm pretty much the only one on LinkedIn somehow that spells it this way. So come find me and connect with me. I also have my show, Career Launch Live, which you can find on careerlaunchlive.com. You can connect with me there. You can even email me from there. So definitely, definitely reach out to me. I'm here for you, whether you're a job seeker, a company that needs help, anything like that. I'm here for you.
Okay. And what's the process to get your software up and running? Like,
Oh yeah.
do you have now like a beta thing? Can people reach out to
So
you?
so starting starting April 1st, we will be able to officially onboard people onto the platform. Very, very excited about that. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn about that. You can also see our website at titanats.com. It's still under construction, but it is up, and you can get some information like pricing and things like that. And then also, we have an event on April 5th. And if you are interested in attending and seeing a demonstration of the technology and how it works, you'll be able to see it live at the official public launch of the product. So reach out to me and I will send you a link to register.
Well, maybe after you jump off this live interview, you can just go to YouTube and LinkedIn and just drop those links in the
I will do that.
comments. Yeah,
I will
that would be
totally do
the
that.
easiest
Yep.
for people to then find you and reach out to you. By the way, is your software like a marketplace solution, or is it like an in-house solution? So I buy my version and I just use it for myself, or
Yep.
it's like everybody connects on it and then I search through that?
Nope. It is just yours for your company. It'll have your company logo, all of
Okay.
that. It's
Okay.
your
Cool.
little baby.
Cool. Well, my last question is always, well, did I forget to maybe ask something that you feel, you really want to share with the audience? Like the last nugget of wisdom before you and
The
I say
last
goodbye.
nugget of wisdom. Oh boy. All right. So companies, we kind of touched on this, but to companies hiring right now, please remember that diversity, equity, and inclusion is very important right now in the job market. And over 60% of job seekers say that that's a priority for them. And they know how to look and make sure that you're not just saying that you care, but that you're actually doing something about it. And diversity, equity, inclusion does not mean token hiring. It means really going out there and finding different ages, different backgrounds, gender, race, all of that. It's all of that. It just means don't hire the same copy over and over again. So make sure companies that you have a strong DEI strategy, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and if you're big enough, find a good diversity, equity, inclusion specialist to come in and set all of that up for you and get you a really good program going. The other thing that you can do is, if you're a little company, is there are some wonderful people online that share information for free. You can look up Tara Furiani, Mervyn McFoy Kennedy. I always bundle his name, but contact me. I'll put you in touch with him. And then also Deanna Stinson Reese are always putting out information that will help you. So reach out to them. They're great resources, but DEI is huge right now across the globe. So companies, diversity, equity, and inclusion, that's your big tip through 2021 in your hiring. You will fail without it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We had Mira and Peter Griffiths a few weeks back on this show, and they have two podcasts on diversity and inclusion and so on. So they're a really good resource as well. They do regular weekly clubhouse meetings on that, and all sorts of people gather.
Yep.
I need to get you in touch with them.
Please do, yeah.
I'm sure you guys will have a lot to talk about that.
Oh yeah, I would love it. Oh, and also UB Chimineri is a great one. And UB, like just the letters UB. And he's another phenomenal one. Yeah, those folks are just irreplaceable. That's not my specialty. I preach it, I love it, but that's not my specialty. So I'm always glad to put somebody in touch with the right resource to build that out.
Cool. Well, Katherine, then, for now, I will say thank you. It was really lovely to have this conversation with you, and I appreciate you for everything that you brought up in this interview. But yeah, definitely I'll be in your inbox right after this, so we can schedule our next one already.
Perfect.
So
I look forward to it. Thank you.
All the best with your lunches and everything in a week or two. And yeah, have a lovely rest of your week. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, everybody. So another Monday, another lovely interview. Katherine, another amazing guest. I know I do have, a feeling for people that I bring to interview. I mean, she's a lovely person as a person. And as you could see, she's very knowledgeable. She knows her way around the HR. I already know that I will share this interview with a few of the people that I work with because she's way more an expert than I am. And so, if you like this, or if, you feel that somebody from your network could benefit from this interviews, let them know, share it with them. You can always reach out to me, comment or message me if there's any particular topic you would love for me to cover, or if you have a good guest or you would be a guest. I'll be always very happy to connect with you, to have a quick chat before we do the live, to see if we're, all a good fit. So yeah, I love doing these interviews, and next Monday, you're all invited back for another interview. So I'll leave you with that. Happy Monday. I hope you're all safe and healthy, and, everything is going well during the craziness that's still happening around us. See you next Monday, and yeah, have a lovely week. Bye.